and also economically, like, you know, who was going to come buy a can of PBR and then when they could go to the bodega and get it? So it just didn't make any sense. So we've been shut down. All of 5 places have been shut down, and so that's been frustrating. I don't see really, not to be too doom and gloom, but I really don't see how the city will allow, you know, a place like Carmelo's or a place that works on a high occupancy level possibly be open for months and months and months. I imagine bar business and maybe theater business will be the last things allowed open. So I hope for my restaurant friends that, you know, some sort of smaller capacity, half capacity, quarter capacity, whatever the city eventually lets us do, will allow them to at least start looking at some of these bills that we've been accruing. But in terms of the bar business, I think we're months away from them letting us occupy in any way. 50% occupancy might as well not be open. That doesn't work. I can't pay my bills doing that. It's cheaper for me to be closed and deal with my landlords and bills. So that's where we are. We're closed. I see no way to do any kind of half-open scenario. So we just have to wait this out and hope that some of these loans and hope that the city has some sort of plan for our landlords. Because I understand from their point of view too. I mean, everyone's getting squeezed, but there has to be something. There has to be some sort of economic plan that pushes right towards the real estate market, because that's what. I mean, I've got relationships with purveyors that are being wonderful. I've got, you know, even the city with utilities are not shutting anyone down. But when it comes to the rent, my landlords, you know, they need this rent, and or if they do or not, they're presenting it as if they do. And, you know, other than the PPP, which is questionably helpful for our industry, the other loans are loans, and I'll either owe the landlord money or I'll owe the government money. And neither one of them are really tenable in terms of way forward. If we're closed if I'm not allowed to open at full capacity till the fall or maybe even later, I don't see how we get out from underneath crushing debt.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note.
Yeah.
Back 100%.
Okay. Yeah, Scott and Michelle, you know, I'm kind of interested in that the subject of rent. How have you guys handled rent with your landlord? Are you you're paying full rent? Are you negotiating some sort of half rent? Yeah, just.
So we wrote to the landlords weeks ago, and it took them. They have an advance of checks from us, so it only took them realizing that the check had a stop check on it to get back to us. So they would just not have gotten back to us. And when they finally did get back to us, it was to say, we're very sorry, this must be so hard, this is terrible, but we still need full rent. And we expect full rent. And to which I said, all right, well, you know, we'll pay full rent up until where we are. Make no mistake, if this goes forward, and you have to choose between having us breach the lease and finding a new tenant in this atmosphere versus allowing us to work at a reduced rent or giving us some of our security deposit back because they're sitting on extra deposits, that we are going to have those conversations before, you know, the next month's rent is due. And I think that so far we haven't sort of pushed the gas pedal on the rent issue, just because we too have been waiting to see what happens, how long. And I think our rent's due on the 15th. So by the 15th of this month, we're going to have a little bit clearer idea than we did last month. And we'll take it accordingly, because I think landlords too don't know that they're not going to have recourse against tenants for breaches during this time. And I think we need to push our negotiating power on that point a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I did read the PPP. You know, I had a conversation with my landlord about rent, as most people are, just because you don't know how long this is going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. The PPP, as I've read, one of the problems is only 25% of that goes towards like non-payroll is forgivable. So again, kind of what Matt was saying, it's really just a loan for all of you.
Also, not just 25%, because 25% at most can be forgiven for non-payroll expenses, but even less than that if you don't keep the same payroll numbers.
Yeah,
So
it's
if you're
90%
paying
of
people
payroll.
less than, so if you're paying fewer people and you're paying the existing people less than you were paying them, 75% less. But there are these numbers, there are these formulas that are not completely, in stone, because of the gaps between the SBA's guidance on it and then the way banks are implementing it. And there's just going to be ambiguities that we don't know yet until this is actually put into full practice. But basically, we do know that there's going to be a forgiveness formula where if you are not hitting a certain amount of payroll expenses as you were before all of this happened, and I think you have until July 30th to get back to those old numbers, but still, in the case of bars, like Matt was saying, they may not be open at that point, so it won't help them at all if you're not open, paying payroll to people. Workers would rather be on unemployment because they potentially are making more now through unemployment than they would be through any $10 an hour payroll you put them through. So it's not designed for restaurants at all. It's not designed for restaurants in this circumstance at all.
Jamie, you want to say something?
Yeah, I've been looking at the PPP as well, and I totally agree. The one reason, the one thing that I by talking to my accountant that
Jamie,
that will be.
Jamie, your connection is a little slow right now. Let's go to Danny for a second, and then.
Hello. Sorry, am I back?
You are.
So let's go to Danny real quick. Hey, Danny.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you?
All right. So you want to introduce yourself? You were.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I came in a little late. I was running around this morning. So I'm Danny. I'm the owner of the Wheelhouse, Millie's Cuban Cafe. I have Alberto and Sons thrift store. I also have a bar in the city and affiliated with Ami Tofu Vegan Cuisine here in Bushwick. So yeah, I mean, where I currently stand is I'm down to 2 locations out of the 5 that were operating and open. And right now, I guess, for the Wheelhouse and Millie's are the 2 that are open. And those 2 businesses alone, I mean, for us personally, 50% of those revenues were based off delivery. So we had some sort of a solid foundation coming into it just based off of those numbers and being able to be open and operate. But what I've done now at this point is just to cut some of the costs in labor in between the 2 restaurants, is I kind of moved both operations into the Wheelhouse, which is about 8 buildings over. And right now we're just operating out of 1 location. But again, with all that being said, I mean, everything was just getting hit like with a ton of bricks from the beginning, and just kind of having to think and re-strategize and come up with solutions in order to make this work. And I mean, we are taking every precaution possible. I mean, we're speaking about being safe and making sure that everybody stays healthy. And obviously, at this point, some of us are able to be essential businesses and do what we're able to do. But I mean, I'm in my restaurant every morning. I'm making sure that every single employee that I have has a mask, making sure that we're staying distant from each other, that we're putting on gloves, taking off gloves, keeping a very solid distance from the door to where our workstation is. And we're really just dropping off our meals at the door on the table and communicating with those drivers from basically the kitchen, and not even having any sort of interaction with them. But yeah, I mean, just between the 2 locations, we went from a staff from probably, it's about like, I would say 25 to 30 of us between the 2 locations, and we're now down to 4 and myself. But yeah, so just for me personally, I mean, that's what I'm dealing with those locations. I'm also building I just finished building a bar. Justin, I think you're aware of the bar, Farewell, which is the old precious metal space. And our concession for that build out just expired last month. So I did get a phone call already from the landlord asking what we're going to do about rent. And I've been a proactive with a handful of the landlords that I deal with. But, to me, I told him, I was like, listen, we're going to figure something out. I have a few ideas and some strategies about going about it, because I do want it to be fair for him. And I want to make sure that we all work through this and get through this together. But ideally, I have solutions for like 2 or 3 months, but like, if this goes on for, 6+, the rent at the space is pretty generous. And I'm going to have to really figure out how I'm going to go about that. Just not even being open, just being a space that was just built.
I think if this goes on for 6 months, no one has any contingency to deal with that. Not just restaurants, but the owners, like everybody's in a pickle.
Yeah. We're all going to be, and I think some of us share some of the same landlords.
I know we do.
Yeah. Pietro, he's an incredible guy, and we've really kind of just bonded and become real with each other over the past few months, and we're trying to really work together on this and try to figure it out. But again, with all that being said, I'm grateful in a sense that the community itself has been so what's the word? It's just so, I guess, responsive to what we're doing, and also just like really, supporting us in a sense. We're getting, we're doing fairly well on delivery, and people are still, whoever's around is just continuing to support. And just based off that, I was getting inspired, and I was feeling, all this kind of love and attention from the neighborhood, that I thought that I should do something as well. And a little, last week, I guess we started donating meals to the local hospital, and starting to kind of just move into a bigger program and donating more meals to hospitals around Brooklyn. So, we're keeping our operation going. We're just trying to, make the best out of what we currently can deal and do with. So,
Danny, where can they go to learn more about that or support?
So Bushwick Daily put an article about it. Alec over at Bushwick Daily saw what we were doing and reached out and just wrote up a little article. I guess it was myself, Tony's Pizzeria, and there was another one on the article. But all I did was I reached out to the hospital, and I got with one of the coordinators there, named Linda, and then she kind of set it up. So she has us set up. She has us set up for 2 days a week, and we're doing around 500 meals a week. And then from the article, we're getting reached out from other hospitals as well. So you see a lot of this on TV right now, and on social media about a lot of restaurants donating and doing this. But at the same time, we're doing it, but there's still hospitals and people who aren't still getting enough attention. And I noticed that and realized that when I was getting reached out to by hospitals. So now we're expanding and sending food out to different hospitals. And then because of the increase of what we're doing with the donations, I set up a GoFundMe. And again, people have been generous enough to start donating and helping us fund this cause and making sure that these healthcare workers are just getting some good meals throughout their days.
Thanks, Danny. I want to, real quick, I just want to introduce Ariel Pallets. Are you there?
Hi, yes, Justin, thank you so much for having me and giving me a couple minutes here today.
Go right ahead.
I'm Ariel Pallets. I am the Senior Executive Director for the Mayor's Office of Nightlife. Some of you may have heard about this new office that was established just 2 years ago to make sure that the nightlife and hospitality industry has a seat at the table inside government. I used to own Sutra Lounge in the East Village for 10 years. I'm born and raised in New York. So, you know, I do come from an operator perspective and definitely know the just daily pain of running a place in the city. And just wanted to come in and jump in just to, first of all, listen to your stories, but also to let you know a little bit about what we're doing. First of all, taking all of like the sort of inconsistencies or the lack of incentives for, you know, if you take the PPP, it's not really a great incentive for employees who are on unemployment, who are making more money there. Also, the whole 25%, 75%, and the timing of when you need to become whole is not really in line with.
Your device is offline. To connect,
Sorry,
swipe down
Alexa's
from the top
jumping
of your
in for some
screen.
reason.
Then go to Settings,
That is
Network.
crazy. Stop. Oh my God, that's Big Brother's in the house.
Huh.
Sorry. So we are definitely communicating the sort of the elements of all the packages and how they're not really in line with reality, especially in hospitality, especially for New York. Our challenges are different. Our rents are higher than 25%. We don't know when we're going to be opening. We don't know when what the capacity and restrictions are going to be. So there are, you know, there's a lot of conversation about what the potential solutions are. We're communicating that to City Hall, to the House of Representatives. And so the messages are getting through to policymakers. We just did a survey that we closed on Friday. We had nearly 12,000 participants of owners and workers and freelancers, and that the survey itself is also going to policymakers to give them real numbers about what people, what the impacts have been and what the needs are. And just not to take up too much of your call today, I just also want you to know that on Monday, next week we're doing 2 town calls. So it's sort of a webinar like this. We're calling them town calls. Monday is for owners and operators. Tuesday is for workers, freelancers, and artists. On the Monday call, we'll have Greg Bishop from Small Business Services, but we'll also have Beth Goldberg, the district director for SBA, and also Andrew Ridgey. It's going to be at noon. And on Tuesday at noon, we're having the senior policy advisor for labor, and Beth Goldberg, and also Rafael Espinal. So I would ask that each of you who are on the call today maybe submit to Justin like your top 3 questions and concerns that you would want answered by the city. We're also working on trying to get somebody from the State Department of Labor, but we do have SBA there as well. So if you could just submit, if you like, top questions or concerns right now that you would want answered, then we will try to get them addressed on the calls. And we'll continue to do that. Opt into our social at NYC Nightlife Gov, which hopefully Justin can also put out there for me, at NYC Nightlife Gov, just on Instagram and Facebook. And you'll be getting, you know, the most recent information that we have about the resources. I think we know that all of these offerings that are coming are a good start, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, and we're doing our best to make sure that we are getting as detailed as possible about what those need to be and making sure the right people know what that is in order to be able to make those adjustments. New York can't fail. Hospitality can't fail. It's not an option. So we know that we will all do whatever it takes collectively, city, state, federal, hospitality, residents, philanthropy, corporate support. It's going to take everybody, but failure is not an option. Without hospitality and bars and clubs and restaurants, this city will not function and will not be what it was. And so New York goes, so goes the world. And it is terrifying, and the uncertainty is the worst part. And the fear that people don't understand that that this isn't what's on the table isn't enough is scary, but we have to just make sure that they get it and that the changes are made. So if you get me the information, I will get it to the people that are making those decisions. So just wanted to pop in, let you know, hospitality does have a seat at the table in, in government right now. It's not just under the table.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Yeah. And if we'll try and get something together for you. Just concerns. I think mostly it'll have to do with how the funds are distributed and how people are, how they meet the terms of the, loan grants. So,
Yeah, but the landlord issues and negotiating rent as individuals, and then they also have their mortgages to think about. It's an entire ecosystem, and support needs to go from the tenants to the landlords. Like, if they're not getting help, they're not going to help the tenants. So everyone has to be able to get some degree of support so that everyone can support each other. So it's complicated. It's still relatively early in the game. So hopefully we can get all the changes that make it fair for everyone.
Thanks so much. Thanks for joining the call, and I'll definitely share on my social media the NYC Nightlife Gov account, and
and everyone can reach out to me anytime directly. You can give them my cell. Okay. If you have any issues with any city agencies, buildings department, or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have some pull at the DOB. Your phone's going to ring off the hook.
Well, that's what we're really here for. I mean, people don't realize, like, we're really here not to, like, circumvent, like, just the regular rigmarole, but if you're having really unjust issues with any city agency, we can help to navigate you through that, definitely, in a more personal way, and to try and get you through it.
Cool.
You're welcome. Good luck, guys.
So I want to get back to Jamie. You were trying to make a point before your connection got a little bad.
Yeah, sorry, my internet for some reason is freezing. But what I was going to say is, from what I understand, I mean, I'm going to have to try to take the PPP like most people are. You can pay your employees to sit at home, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pay, so I have 2 months of rent, and you can pay your employees their tips. I mean, 99% of our, everything's shown because it's all credit cards. So we're just going to pay my full-time employees, which we've worked out. I think I can take them back on the books. They'll basically making what they were before they went on unemployment, which for my bartenders is much more than unemployment. But that'll only be for 2 months. After that, and this is going to go on way longer than 2 months. This is going to go on the winter. It's going to come back. You're going to get the second wave. They're going to do the whole, there's no way a vaccine's going to be ready for the next year to 18 months. So to think that 2 months is even close to dealing with this, we're going to need to be supported probably for the next year. There's no way. I never set up my business to do takeout. I mean, we're going to try to figure it out. It's not my thing. I'm going to do my best, but I don't know. We've never done it. I'm going to try to figure it out to get some income, but at the end of the day, I make my money because my seats are full and I have people at the bar. And until that is back, I'm not going to be able to generate the money to pay my expenses.
Yeah.
Even to be closed. And as an owner of an LLC, I cannot collect any unemployment. So
I don't know if
you've been staying at like living I have a 2-bedroom apartment. I have my daughter. For me to look at that, just my living expenses are, paid through the corporation. So it's a huge amount of money,
I'd like to add to what you're saying here, in the sense that the way I structure my business is I have a lot of partners and they work in the bar. So I've got 4 partners and they're all working partners. None of these people can get unemployment. So I've got 4 out of my 5 employees can't get unemployment because they are technically attached to the LLC or to the sub S. So this is what I hope that Ariel can help us with in some ways, that what we really need is the unemployment office to change the basic guidelines of owners. Because I have 5 owners in a business and they all have a job and they all receive a paycheck.
Yeah.
I've got bartenders.
I'm totally screwed. I mean, I can't really put into words. I mean, I don't really know what to do. What am I going to do? Move home with my parents?
Yeah.
Kind of like, I'm 47 years old and I'm looking at that as an option because without getting money, of course I can't do that because I'd kill them because I live in New York and I probably have COVID-19. So, in terms of the solution I'm with Matt in that I think there aren't solutions. I think that at the end of the day, a lot of us are going to be out of business. And I think whoever's positioned to take over these places at the end of it is going to be.
The CARES Act changed.
One at a time, yeah.
I
Sorry.
think the CARES Act changed that, and that you can, even if you own your business, now get.
Not if you're the officer of a corporation, you can't. If it's an LLC, if you're the S corp, you can. But if you have a liability,
can you check with your accountants if you can change the tax election to an S corp? Because we have an LLC, but it's taxed as an S corp, and.
Yeah, but then the liability laws are different. I can't own a business and be an S corp. It's way too risky. I would never. It's just insane. I'd be liable for all the financial responsibility myself personally. I'm not going to ruin my life.
So
when I file bankruptcy eventually, if that happens, that's going to be on me if I file as an S corp.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw. So here in the chat, Drew commented. Drew is the owner of one of the owners of Saint Elsewhere, or not Saint. What do I call it? Saint Elsewhere, the music venue. And he's saying the new and expanded unemployment is in fact available to owners and self-employed now. You should apply. I have. So I don't know the intricacies. I'm not an accountant, but I have been reading as well that people who are 1099s and people that have, like for instance, most brokers can now apply for unemployment, whereas in the past they were kind of left out. But again, right, I guess that is a question probably for each person's accountant, how that affects you and whether you can. But I think they are trying to make unemployment now available to people in our situations. But obviously unemployment is still not a long-term solution, and it's a very small amount of money relative to what you're probably used to making and in relation to your expenses. But
yeah, and I wanted to say to Jamie, if you need any help structuring around like building a delivery program, I'd be more than happy to help you out with that and strategize around it. To bring some sort of income in, if that's something you're interested in doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm looking into it. I guess it's something I'll probably have to look into in the short term. I'm actually probably going to scrap our old menu for now and probably do a lot of the work myself. And
but there's a way. Everybody's home. Everybody's ordering delivery, and
part of my thing is an ethical thing. I actually don't. I really would like to limit myself and my staff's exposure to the outside. I don't think that.
Yeah, for sure.
Much. I feel like as a business owner, I should be able to make that decision that I am actually shut down during this. And you weren't here earlier. I made the decision to shut down before the city called it because I was just freaking. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and now we're seeing what happened because everyone was out and about. So I will look into those things as over the next few months, and I will be doing probably just takeout for a while, just with myself, because I don't want to ask my employees to expose themselves to anything. So I'll be doing some of the work myself. But personally, I'm not particularly comfortable trying to stay open. I don't think that's the right thing. I don't think the city and the government should be asking business owners right now to operate. Right now, it's everyone's job not to operate. And the government needs to find a way to make that a viable option, because that is really what needs to happen. Because if you look at Spain and Italy, it's not like America's somehow special and we're going to get away with this. We're worse off than Spain and Italy were at this time. And it certainly does not look like things are great there. So I just don't see this kind of as a businessman and in the bar and restaurant industry, all I do is prepare for worst case scenarios. That's what I've done since I opened.
Yeah, likewise.
Work to my behest, and I find that right now it's impossible to plan because you're in the worst case scenario, and I don't see any end in sight in the short term. So
Yeah.
And I think that to look for private solutions I think what we should be doing is filing a lawsuit against the federal government for the city and state governments for the way that they were so inactive. I mean, school was in way too long. Businesses were running way too long. The state and the federal and local governments have a lot of responsibility for the fact that the huge spike we see and how that's affecting the long term of the city. That's their responsibility, the Department of Health, all these people, and then to kind of put it on the private institutions to say that, well, let's figure out a way for you to work. Personally, I think that's just the wrong way to look at it, but that's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah. And I guess where I'm coming from with it is that, I kind of want to just make sure for the community itself that there's options available for those who don't want to. I mean, yeah, I'm sure McDonald's and the Burger Kings, everybody else are going to stay open and we can, do okay like that. But like me personally, I feel more at risk having to go to the grocery store, touch everything that everybody's touching, and take that walk back home in order to cook myself meals. And I know there's options too to have that delivered to you as well. But just what I'm creating and what I'm doing is just sticking with the same 4 people. And I mean, we're basically wearing hazmat suits as we're working, not as far as that, but we have every protective measure across the board. And then just for me, I just feel like as a business owner and for my community, and it's just what I feel personally, is that I want to make sure that I'm continuing to feed everyone and make sure that I started looking at Grubhub and I started seeing restaurant like day by day just disappearing on those delivery resources. But and I get it. Maybe somebody got sick. Maybe someone maybe they made the choice of closing down for the situation. But just for me currently, I'm just taking every possible step to just make sure like our core is okay. I wake up every morning, I text everybody every morning and I say, hey, how are you guys feeling? Are you sure we want to continue on to do this? It's no pressure towards them. It's what we want to do, like collectively as a team. And the 4 core are all management and, not essentially owners, but, have a small portion of the businesses. So that's just what I feel just as a duty to the community, and that's what's thriving me, and that's what's like making me continue on. But again, with the safety of my staff and my employment, to make sure that they're all okay and safe and healthy, and taking every precaution.
So I want to we've got about 15 minutes left. I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about the future and how this changes, how you will pursue spaces in the future, how this changes how you'll structure your businesses, your leases, and maybe I'll throw this to you, Matt. You have a space you're trying to open right now. I know you're negotiating a lease on another space. Like how is this going to change how you do business?
Interestingly, the leasing, commercial leases are horrible things in and of themselves. I know how to make those changes. I would say that one of the things I would do is my insurance policies. I will take a different look at. Why am I paying insurance? Why have I ever paid insurance? I've never once benefited from anything that's ever happened. Of course, business interruption insurance, unhelpful. Any sort of standard insurance policy that doesn't ruin me in terms of expenses is useless. So I think what I would do for the future is try to find a way to have insurance that actually is insurance. I mean, that would be, what a concept. So that'd be nice. In terms of leases, though, I mean, force majeure, certain things in there maybe, but every landlord's going to be slick to these things, so they're going to be protecting their end. So I don't personally have a way forward with that, Justin. I would look to someone like yourself to help us with that. But yes, I would love a clause that says, when shit goes wrong, I don't have to pay rent. So work that one out for us. That'd be great.
So
Michelle?
to that point, Justin, with the lease that we negotiated with the Otis landlords, it was pretty, close to boilerplate for, leaning towards landlords. But the other two leases that we signed recently, I did have them changed, and this was before coronavirus, but I did have them change the force majeure to include the obligation to pay rent, because the standard for most commercial leases is force majeure, everything except in no way shall this remove the obligation to pay rent, on the tenant's part. But if you just take that one little line out, then force majeure does. It stops all your obligations, including your obligation to pay rent. And so for the city lease that we signed, luckily that was very clear. And so as long as this situation plays out, we have no obligations to the landlord at all. And we did a similar thing for the Greenpoint lease, including, with eminent domain, you can define taking in like a really wide-ranging way. In some ways, potentially this could all be a taking for the public interest.
The New York State on pause would be the taking.
Right. So those two clauses, the force majeure and the eminent domain taking thing, if you write them expansively, they can help us. And I think that all tenants should push back against these boilerplate lease provisions, which, the attorneys will always go like, but this is how it always is. Like, I've never had somebody protest this, but I mean, this is just, you just do this. Like, no, I'm not signing this unless this changes, because it's really, really, really unfair the way most leases are written to benefit solely the landlord. And I think everybody collectively pushes back on some of these boilerplate provisions, and then they can start to become boilerplate in a different way that's more equitable,
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think Drew also just shared, I don't know if you saw in the chat, a link to what the business insurance group, and a group of restaurateurs working to get business interruption insurance paid out regardless of virus or civil authority exclusions at a national level via lawsuits and lobbying. So if you guys want to follow that link, maybe there's probably a petition or something you can sign. It is interesting, and it is nice that it seems like people are lobbying to kind of retroactively address lease clauses that may exclude you currently, but would allow you to maybe not pay rent or at least have some power and control in this situation. So now I know we have some attendees. If anyone has any questions, you can type it into the chat here and ask any of the participants. So now's your chance. And while we're waiting, is there just something that somebody else wants to discuss? Maybe something positive.
A going back to business party when everybody can go back.
Yes.
One thing around.
Well, I will say, once we can all go back to bars and restaurants, we will enforce. So,
yeah. I think that I think that one thing I think that we need to be realistic about in the bar and restaurant industry is that we may not get the support that we want. I think we also, some of us need to be prepared for the worst, which is one thing I've been doing is accepting the fact that if this does drag on and we're unable to get a vaccine, that there is a possibility of shutting down. I think that it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. I also realize that there is a limit to the loans that I'm willing to take out on my business. As much as I love it and my heart and soul has been part of it, is that I also realize on the other end of this, I mean, they're estimating tens of thousands of places closing. There's going to be a huge amount of available real estate. And I think that we need to also be prepared to leave some stuff behind to have some resources to get in on the other side of this. And it's a hard thing to think about. And I think that for some people, it might be the only way to actually move forward. I'm not there yet, but I certainly have had to kind of get through that fear of losing my business, because I think America is not it's not a place where you get a lot of support. And I've kind of come to terms with that. And I am going to fight as hard as I can but there, once again, I just think there is a point where you have to go, there's nothing else I can do. And it's a sad fact that I think a lot of people are hitting that point now. And I think in the coming months, we'll see more. And it is going to be I think we're going to see a lot of the big corporations move in and buy up a lot of real estate. I think we're going to see more Chipotles. I think we're going to see more. That's already started to happen. But I think afterwards, we will see a changed city. I think a Midwesterning of the East Coast will happen, unfortunately, to a degree. As these companies come in and buy up places, we're going to see more mall kind of things happening. And that will probably be one of the darkest parts of the coronavirus, will be the death of a huge amount of beloved mom and pop businesses in New York. And that is what defines the city. And whether or not this city will have it won't have the character. It'll have a different character. I don't know. Maybe this will be an opportunity for people. Maybe the leases will be cheap enough that we do see some explosions of new small businesses opening, which I hope to see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think there will be a great discount on. I mean, just trying to put some spin on that, right? So let's say that is kind of worst case scenario. You're right. It's going to affect personally, a lot of people that have to close down. But also, it will there'll be a need to fill those spaces, and you'll have spaces that are improved, right? That have hopefully work that's been done to code and are ready to go. Like it will be I feel a rebirth of a new sort of group of small businesses. Obviously, that's not what I want to see happen. I mean, I want everyone who's in business, such as myself, to remain in business and not be someone else. But I have faith that it's not like Chipotle is not going to take the Rookery. You know what I mean? There's not enough foot traffic there.
Not of my dead body.
Another cute bar, it'll be great.
Oh man. Sorry, I got dark there for a minute, but it is, I'm a realist. I'm not trying to be a pessimist by any means. I want everyone to make but I think a lot of people aren't. I think it's so scary that a lot of people aren't willing to say it, that this is probably going to be much worse than we want it to be. And I think that being optimistic is great. And I think everyone should be pulling for each other and really going for it and doing what you can. But, at the end of the day, this is going to be a culture changing event,
But I think what you can do is only deal with what you can do.
Of course.
Present, right? Like,
no, of course, absolutely. No.
Like reach out to Ariel and make sure that people in government understand how your needs are not being met by what is being offered, and that's all we can do right now.
Sure.
Anybody else want to make any closing comments? I appreciate everyone joining. I think this was it was helpful for me. I hope that the attendees all got a lot out of it. And, it was a pleasure. I've actually worked with all of you, full disclosure, as a client in some capacity in the past. And, you're all great people. And I'm really happy to, do what I can maybe to try and help a little conversation. And as well, I do want to take this conversation and try and, distribute it as well, so more people can see it, and hopefully it falls upon ears of people that can do something. So that's it. So thanks so much, everybody, and enjoy your day. We'll all be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And best luck to everyone.
Yes, thank you so much.